Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Very well. Very well indeed. I'm excited to dive into this question here. It's a really good one.
What is it?
Yeah, so it's from Nathan. So if it's the first time listening to the show, what we have, we've got a thread in the Powerful Man Facebook group, and the guys post some topics and questions in there that they'd like us to cover from time to time. This one from Nathan's an interesting one. So he has said, I'd be interested to hear how you guys find a healthy balance between me time, relationship time, and family time. What would a typical week or month look like? I'm interested in how your evenings and weekends look. I then said to him, we'll tackle this one for you. I'm curious, how do you currently do it? And he said, over the past 12 years, this has changed. Selfish and fun at first, of course. Then as work increased in challenge and having a child, priorities change. And wife slipped probably beneath those two. Okay. So I'm attempting to rebalance it all. I'm already pretty good at scheduling my days. I have purposely changed some of my areas over the past 12 months slowly. Gym, meal planning, seeing friends more, and so on. As I add more, I feel minor resistance from her at times. So I question myself on what is the optimal amount to spend on various areas in my life. This is where I'm interested in what men, particularly those with kids, do. In the last 2 months, I got my month calendar and attempted to plan the month with various parts of my life, similar to the 5 territories. I've been a bit geeky and done this with the highlighters. I love that. It's very visual. It's a very visual way to see if there's a balance over the month. Seems to have made an improvement. So I'm moving forward. Things are more focused, but I want more change. I want more change, faster, and better. Does all that make sense? Thanks.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question. I think the idea of balance is BS. First and foremost, there is no perfect balance for everybody. There's also different seasons of your life. Now, if you have kids, you get to decide how much involvement you want in your kid's life. For some guys, they want to be at every event, every sporting event, kids' crafts, they want to be involved as much as possible. Where do you have other guys who just want to be in the highlights, right? They're not as interested or involved. Now, it's completely up to you on where you stand. I'm not here to judge anybody, but that's just in the realm of fatherhood. Now, of course, we have marriage, right? Very similar, right? What's your priority there? Where do you want to be there? In the area of self. So, and then business, like what do you want your business to look like? So something I would use here, Tim, is 2 things, right? We often say, show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities. Most of the men listening to this would say, my kids and my wife are my number one priority. Then after that, it's business, et cetera, et cetera. But when you look at your calendar, guys, what are you really seeing here? And for this gentleman as well. And it sounds like he's, I know you love the geeking out part on the highlighters and everything else, but what are you really seeing? And you have a partner in this thing we call life. Like you committed to a relationship in marriage, in my viewpoint. So you also, where does she fit into this? What are her desires? And when I do my planning, I bring my wife into that planning because I want to make sure that her desires are met, right? To a degree, right? We talk about it. There's certain things that we don't do always at the same time. And, sometimes we do get into disagreements. There's conflict. Just yesterday, I wanted to go work out. And at the same time, my wife wanted to go work out. But one of us had to watch the kids. So we got to have a conversation about how we were going to make it work, right? It wasn't which one of us gets left behind. It was how do we both get what we want? And that conversation works out really well. And so this idea of balance coming through, this concept of balance is really more a concept of priorities. What is it you prioritize in your life? And then how are you going to fit those things in? And if you're getting pushback from your partner, then it just happens to, you just have a conversation about it. If you have a solid marriage, you can have a conversation about it. Now, of course, I believe that each individual needs to make their own decisions, right? There's sometimes my wife may or may not want me to do something in particular, and I may do it anyway. But there's other times that she doesn't want me to do something. And I sit down and we talk about it and I hear her. I'm like, you know what? You make a good point. You're making a really good point here. I didn't consider that item or this thing that came up. So I know it's a little bit abstract. I'm sure, Tim, I can see you moving over there because you're dying to talk over there about some details. But I think this idea of balance that's being thrown around, it's been thrown around for decades, is a bunch of BS the way it's been handled. It's really about what are your priorities? What are your true priorities? And I can tell you, because you asked, what do we do? For me, I prioritize and make sure I'm taking care of myself, those things that I get to do that fill me up so I can show up as a better father, right? And I make sure I schedule those. And for me, sometimes that's getting up really early in the morning to ensure I get that done before my kids get up. Then I move on to my partner, my wife, right? Because I know if my marriage isn't healthy, that's not going to be good for my children, right? So that's also important. So her and I talk every night pretty much about what the next day is going to look like. An example, I got up extra early this morning so I could work and get things done that need to get done for the powerful man. So I could go to the beach in the afternoon with the family. So I could make that time because I wanted to be there when my kids learning to boogie board, right, and ride waves. And it's super cool to be the dad out there in the middle of the ocean, pushing them on the waves and cheering them on. I want to be there for those life events. So I'm filling my cup with myself first. Yes, it meant I went to, I got up earlier this morning, but guess what? I went to bed earlier. No big deal. And maybe I missed out on Jeopardy or something, or a TV show. Not a big deal to me. So I prioritize those things that I really wanted to do. I'm using this as an example and as a template. After my wife, I go to my kids. And then after my kids, then I start to look at the business. But I'm able to fit in all of these categories. And really what it is shuffling things around. Right. So now I move things around. Maybe I don't go work out at 8 a.m. I go work out at 6 a.m. or 5 p.m. or what have you. But I'm still getting it in. I just have to shuffle things around sometimes so I can do the things that I want to do, like ride the waves with my son.
You covered a lot of what I was going to cover. I'm sure I'll find something to talk about. So what I was going to say,
No
what I was going to say here. So let me just, there was a section in there. So you said something interesting to me, which was, so I'm moving forward, things are more focused, but I want more change, faster and better. Now, I found that really interesting because what I'm wondering as I read this is, are you living from the inside out or the outside in? Kudos to you for reshuffling your territories or planning around your territories. Awesome. Good job. But a big part of living from the inside out is be, do, have, right? So you shift from an outside in approach, which is have, do, be. So when I have the money, then I'll finish work earlier and then I'll be able to be a good father because I'm there for my kids. When I have the six-pack abs, then I'm going to make more approaches on my wife and then I'll be a real lover for her, right? And the thing with this approach of have, do, be is that it's very much based on outcomes. And we like to think that, okay, but when I get the outcome, then I'm going to feel different and things will change, but they never do. Now, the flip side of this is when you live from the inside out and you live from be, do, have. And like Doug, you choose to be a great father now so that you then go to the beach so you can have the experiences with your son, right? Now, the thing with be, do, have is it isn't about wanting change faster or better. It's not about that because you start to learn to fall in love with the journey because you realize the journey is the destination and you're always going to be on it. And because you're always going to be on it, you realize that one of the key principles that you've got to live by is flexibility, right? You've got to be able to flex and flow with things. And that might mean that you can't go to the gym at the same time every day. That might mean that you can't go to the gym as many times as you want to go to in the week. It might mean that you do have to work late some nights because you need to get stuff done, but you also want to have dinner with your kids and spend the evening with your wife. So what you choose to do is after dinner for one night, instead of going to bed, you just get a little block of work done. But you don't make a habit out of it, right? Because then you're going to bed separately and all that kind of stuff. But the point I'm making here is you flow with this. It's not about balance, it's about flow. And you understanding what the rules are, hence priorities. And this is how we do it. I'm very flexible with my approach. I live from the inside out, just organize the territories in a similar way to you. I know what's the most important things for me to make sure I'm getting done. But I also realize that it's not about me getting to the gym for an hour and crushing out that workout for the exact hour and smashing a PB out every time I'm there. I realize what's more important for me is getting out of the house, getting a workout in, creating a sweat, lifting. And if that happens to be 45 minutes or even half an hour some days, but I come back and I'm full, awesome. Right? So it's not about the process. Sorry, it's not about the outcome. One of the tools we give the men in the activation method is the coil. It's the chart of intentional living. It's the businessman's chart of intentional living. Now, the reason why I mention this is because the way it works is they have a total of 35 points that they can score in any given week. And the reason why that is because they have 5 points available to them per day, and there's 7 days, right? 7 times 5. And those 5 points per day come from the 5 territories. And you can get a maximum of 1 point for each territory. Now, the way that you get a point is essentially by doing what you say you're going to do. So at the start of the day or the previous day, what you'll do is you've got a maximum of 3 items or 3 outcomes, tasks, whatever you want to put in there, that you can write down for each one of the territories. You can't write any more because it forces you to then prioritize what are the most important things for me to get done. Now, you get a point if you do those things. If you don't do those things, then you don't get a point. You don't always have to put 3 things either, right? In relationships, it might just be one thing. It might be, hey, I've got to have a conversation tonight with my wife about what tomorrow looks like. It might just be one thing for that day. Health, it might be, evening routine. I've got to make sure that after work, I take half an hour to do my alpha decompression. I know you asked about what our routine's looking like. So you get the point here. And some days you may not do all the things that you've said you were going to do, but you've done your best and you've played all out, and life has just shown up. But you've done the best that you could do given the conditions in that territory. So you may choose to give yourself a point, right? Idea of this is not about scoring 35 out of 35. The idea of this is for you to track your progress over the weeks. It might be 27, might be 29, might be 32, might be 17. Oh, it's 17. What happened that week? That's off. I put too much on my plate. I made myself have 3 things in every territory. I was never going to get 3 things done. I overcommitted. I overstretched myself. Fell off the wagon. Right, I know not to overcommit and overstretch myself. Or maybe you keep scoring 28, 28, 28. And every week there's one territory where you keep missing. Maybe it's because you're not setting accurate priorities there. Maybe it's because you're avoiding doing something. Maybe it's just saying, right, I'm going to be home to put my kids in bed. Maybe you're saying that you're going to be there to be on the beach with the boys and you're going to be there on time. And you're not. So relationships is where you keep dropping points, but really the opportunity there is for you to reassess your boundaries, communicate expectations, not let life run away with you. So the chart of intentional living is a great way, a great structure for you to be able to flow with your life instead of trying to create balance. Balance would mean that everything is equal. Everything is never going to be equal.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think it's something that's important just to let the listeners know is, guys, we don't always hit it, right? And as a father, I can tell you right now, I don't always get my workouts in, my meditation in, things that I want to do because I'm taking care of a sick kid or, my kid hurts themselves, God forbid. But it happens, right? That's reality. Reality sets in, or my wife has something going on in her world. And it's important to me as a loving partner to be there for her. So this is where it comes down to priorities. And I think oftentimes I know looking from the outside in, it could seem like, oh, well, Doug and Tim are, the chart of intentional living for businessmen. They're hitting these numbers all the time. That's just not true. It's just not. We're always striving for the best possible. But again, because you mentioned how do guys with kids do this? It comes down to priorities, and you got to shake and move, man. You got to adapt. If 2020's taught us anything, is you got to be adaptable quick. And for those people that weren't originally, you should be now. Nothing's guaranteed. And so you do the best you can. And that starts with the night before prepping the next day. Love that you're charting out your month. Love it. Hopefully you're reflecting on your month previous to that, right? So you get some insights. Hopefully you're sharing that with your partner. If your kids are old enough, share it with them. Teach them these great habits now. Guys, could you imagine if you had the stuff that the powerful man teaches about love, about communication? If you had that at a young age, gosh, how would your life be different? But this is about scheduling, right? Scheduling you. And scheduling sounds lame, honestly, but it's not. It's about setting up yourself for success. And then to me, that starts the night before, right? I lay out my workout clothes. So that's one less thing for me to do in the morning. So I'm able to get to the gym quicker. So I'm able to do more things, right? And then you talk about getting better. There's the concept of the 90-minute hour. On my way to the gym, I'm listening to messages and sending messages for work. So I'm getting all that time there. While I'm at the gym and I'm working out, sometimes I'm listening to a book that I want to read. Other times I'm just working out and I letting my subconscious come. And on the way back from the gym, I'm replying to more messages. So I'm taking that, what typically would be, one task of just driving. Most people listen to music. No, I'm using that time to actually be productive. So I can go to the beach. I can do all these other things. And oftentimes within the powerful man, people comment, wow, Doug, you get at least 10 times done in a day than Tim does in a week. And although that's true, it's really because I have these systems set up, right, that allow me to do this and allow me to, obviously I'm kidding, giving Tim a hard time, but these are systems that I have set up that allow me to get a lot done in a very short period of time. And then I can prioritize. But again, like I said, as a father, there's things that just come up just a little bit ago. If the previous podcast, my son was banging on the door because he needed daddy, right? So I'm going to be there for him. And luckily, I have a business partner in Tim who's super cool with that, right? We're a very family first organization. And so we're allowed to shift and move. My point being, it's great to have a perfect day written down. Love it. Great to have a perfect week, a perfect month, a perfect year. But you have to allow yourself to be open to possibilities of change, possibilities of being there in that moment that your kids really need you. It's always easy to be the dad who shows up for boogie boarding. Harder to be the dad that shows up at 2 a.m. to a kid that's screaming because they're scared and decides to lay on the floor next to the bed and really not sleep and stay up all night with that child. But that's what really, to me, what being a father is really all about. It's those little moments and making those critical decisions. And you say, you know what? I'm not going to the gym tomorrow because I'm not rested enough. Right. But this is the priority. My son, my daughter, they're my priorities right now.
And I think one of the point, your wife, you mentioned about how your wife complains. I imagine part of why your wife complains isn't necessarily about what you're doing. Because look, on some respects, what you're doing can be very attractive to her. You've got a lot of direction in your life. Yet how you're going about it is probably going to turn her off because you probably, my guess, is going to be quite stressed because of a lack of flexibility. And she's going to sense that from you. And then when you have so much rigidity in your life, and something comes out of the blue, like Doug was saying, and you say, well, I'm supposed to be working out. I've got to be working out because that's what my plan. Then you stress yourself out. You fall off the wagon. You beat yourself up. You get angry. You get angry at yourself. You get angry at other people. And that's what your wife feels. And your wife doesn't want you to have a purpose and have direction at the cost of losing the man she fell in love with. She'd much prefer that playful side of you than the serious side.
Yeah, and she probably also, Tim, from my experience, bring her involved. Tell her why. Why do you want to do this? And Tim, you said this really eloquently before, is you said, you're like, look, I know when I do these things, I show up as a better partner for Amelia, your partner, right? And this is the same I share with my wife. My wife's like, why do you have to go to the gym? I really need, this morning, I just want you to take care of the kids or get the food ready. When I sit her down and lovingly, I said, babe, when I go to the gym, I show up as a better husband, a better father. My energy is better. I'm there. I'm able to be there for you and the kids. When I sit down and tell her why, then it's no problem, right? Because before, her story was, oh, I'm just going to the gym because it's something I like to do, right? So you want to sit down and explain to the people why you're doing what you're doing, right? Include them into this vision, enroll them into your life. Now, that's what leaders do. And that's a really important aspect to this. And then like plan your wife's month out, plan your family's month out along with yours, right? Where are your vacation days? Where are your fun days? Where are your date nights? Where's that? Get them excited about these things. Because oftentimes what happens, and the reason men fall by the wayside in their marriage, is because they lone wolf it, right? They don't include their spouses, and then their partners get lonely. And, so my partner is lonely. They're going to look for their needs to be met somewhere else often. It doesn't always end in an affair, but it can, an emotional or physical, but it can definitely end in them turning to someone or something else to get their needs met.
100%.
Awesome. I love that question. It's a fun
Great one.
Yeah, it really is. So guys, keep asking those questions. They're really fun for Tim and I. Hopefully they're useful for you. I'd love to hear, guys, how you schedule your week. Are you using the businessman's chart of intentional living? If you don't know what that is, and go ahead and put something in the Facebook group or the comments in Workplace. If you're a member of the alumni group, you have access to this. But also, how do you schedule your week? I want to know. And Tim wants to know. So put a comment down in the Facebook group. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, it's a private community for business owners only. You can go in there. Nobody can see your post except for the actual members. It's a little over 3,000 men that are active in that group right now on Facebook. So go over there and let us know. Let's share some ideas. The plans that Tim and I have are a little different in how we execute them, but it's something that we've crafted over the years working with thousands of other business leaders. And it just works. The business owner's chart of intentional living just plain works. However, if there's a better mousetrap, if you're doing something, maybe we'd love to know. We're always looking to improve, guys. We never claim that we have all the answers, going through there. So please share. I'd love to hear what you guys have. And as always, if this is your first time being with us and you're getting value out of this, I'd love it if you leave us a review, an honest, authentic review of this show, just so other men like you can find it as well. Guys, until next time, we'll see you on the Powerful Man Show.